Yeah, that is shady.
Shady stuff. Pete Dye.
Oh, wow. Music. We jamming now. All right, friends, it's about that time. Tuesday, 1 o'clock here on the East Coast. That means it's PGA Strategy Show from Awesemo.com, the Players Championship. That should need no introduction. I guess I don't need an introduction at this point. I'm on the show every week. I am Ben Rasa, though. I am joined by my Wednesday night co-host, Eric Lindquist, doing a little switcheroo here. Sir, it is 10 a.m. on the West Coast, but it is never too early to talk a little Players Championship. I assume as a golf purist, you're very excited for what should be just a fantastic week with a ton of drama.
I am, and it's strange. If you had told 15-year-old Eric that I would be excited for any golf tournament that had Pete Dye behind it, as a 34-year-old, I would have thought you were crazy because Crooked Stick in old Indiana, once upon a time, almost made me quit golf. Pete Dye puts trees in the middle of fairways. He does diabolical things with greens. I shot a very, very high number at a very young age, and it made me want to quit golf for a day. I got over it, fortunately, but very fortunate to talk about this TPC Sawgrass golf course. Pete Dye, we know him from Whistling Straits, now from this, and of course, $20 million purse. That'll pique anybody's interest.
No doubt about that. Yeah, if you're doing one and done pools, I had a video posted this morning on the Odd Chopper channel. You're going to want to watch that because it's a lot of money if you can get this right. And of course, on the DFS side, major prize pools. There's some Millies out there, a ton to get to. We're going to talk about them. I do want to start, though, with our friends. I say it every Wednesday night, but I also say it on Tuesday afternoons. Yahoo Fantasy powering the show. It's on your TV. It's on our screen. If you have not been over there, this is truly a great week to get over there because of the players. Of course, NBA is in full swing, and we have the deal. Get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up, deposit, and play. For those new users, you can claim at awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo. The lobby is filled with some fantastic prize pools. It's always nice to take your shot at a Millie, but in addition to that, build the bankroll over at Yahoo.
Yeah, build a bankroll over at Yahoo. Play where there's the lowest rake out of any of these major sites. I'm all about finding any of the edges. That's why Odd Shopper is so important to us. Heading over there, finding the best number, because over a long run, the less that you're paying on juice, the better off you are. It's not just about winning your bets. It's about winning the bets at the right numbers. And so the same thing applies in DFS. Over on Yahoo, you're only paying 10, 11, 12% rake, as opposed to 15, 16, 17% on DraftKings or FanDuel. That makes Yahoo the best place, point per dollar, to be playing your DFS action.
Yeah, and again, it's not like it's one or the other. You can mix it up. The salaries are different over there. Some real good prices on a lot of guys, and we will get that throughout the show. I do want to ask you, though, man, the wind, or it wasn't even that windy, but Bay Hill just turned into a torture chamber, particularly on the weekend. Scotty Scheffler survived. No one really, I mean, guys were shooting in the 80s and whatnot, but it was just a brutal test for everybody. Why do you think that was? And do you draw anything from that?
So they were talking a little bit on the telecast where Bay Hill, they've tried to make this US Open-esque to a certain extent. It plays too hard. When you see greens, when you start having guys from 150 not be able to hold a pitching wedge and 9-iron into green locations where they hit perfect golf shots and it's bouncing 25 yards away from certain pins, and then you have 5-inch Bermuda rough around the greens, it's just a little bit too extreme for me. Now, Scotty Scheffler, what an absolute stud. I talked about him last week. He was one of the bets. He's a guy that salvaged my week for a lot of things. I guess I made a little bit in DFS despite Trey Merritt, a guy that I got on a little bit later, and Paul Casey shooting 85 and 83 respectively on Sunday. I mean, that's just a little bit ridiculous because we know the kind of players that they are. And I'm excited. We're obviously not going to have any dry greens in this spot today for this week. Looks like rain, and more rain. So Bay Hill, I don't really know what to say other than if guys were playing well, yay, congratulations. You're going to continue to play well. But I don't think a Rory 76 over the weekend, when he was obviously uncomfortable and upset with the way the course was playing, is going to dictate much of what I do here.
Yeah, I don't draw a ton from it. Just different. And we're gonna get into it a little bit and we're gonna talk about TB Sawgrass right now. The weather, it looks nasty. It's gonna rain Thursday and Friday. Then it looks like it's gonna be freezing on Sunday. I don't know exactly what that brings, but oh boy, what do you think it brings? Because we know TPC Sawgrass a lot of water, not long by any stretch. It's gettable. There's par fives to be had, but what do we do now?
Well, this is going to be a different kind of beast than we've seen the last 2 weeks. So the last 2 weeks have been brutal. There hasn't been much scoring. With rain, for the best players in the world, top 144. I mean, there's 144 guys in this field. Everybody that can tee it up. Bryson WD, if you want to call it a suspension, I'll call it a suspension. That's more likely. But we are looking like this entire golf course is going to be wet. It's going to be crazy. When you get the best players in the world out on a wet track, they can take advantage of pins, of being able to hold everything right next to the exact number that they're aiming it down on. You're going to see, I think, more birdies than what we've seen here, even the last 2 years. And it's been a pretty decent relative since they moved it in 2019 back to March instead of May, which makes a huge difference, by the way. I have to throw out a lot of sample size from these May Players Championships just because of how different overseeding and Bermuda grass plays in a March type format as opposed to in May. And we'll get into a little bit of that, but you're seeing -16 and -14 being the two low scores. I would be shocked if under the wet possibility, even of lift clean in place where you're going to have preferred lies in every single fairway or through the green. I believe they changed the definition of that in the rules of golf, but it's the same thing that applies. If it's in the fringe or the fairway, you're going to be able to just mark your golf ball and then place it down perfectly. These guys are going to go crazy low. So I think it's going to be 18, 20 under par you're looking at for a number.
Oh yeah, again, I think this is where we talk about skill set correlation, and you can do that, but you can also do it in terms of difficulty. And I'm going to build where guys are absolutely pin hunting. There's going to be crazy low scores. And then I'm going to build where there's delays. It's nasty. It gets to the weekend. It's out of control bad. I don't know. I think that's possible that we get it the wrong way. I don't know if there's any splits. And again, I don't think we need to get into the tee times. We'll have the show tomorrow that does just that. It's another layer of variance that we have to do at a high variance course. I mean, 17, of course, will determine a lot of people's fates. But if you keep it out of the drink, the 4 par fives, you can attack these. I'm going to look at par 5 scoring. I'm going to look at birdies or better around the green. You know, it's a true test. I don't have anything special to say. It's the strongest field. I mean, do we just play it straight up ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, there's one little caveat that I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with it. It's Tuesday. We've got, you know, not only today, but you guys are going to get Jason and Ben covering for Live Before Lock, getting you really amped up for exactly what we're looking at. But Saturday, it's going to be blowing up to 20, 30 miles an hour on Saturday. It is going to be bonkers. Saturday is going to be the hardest day for scoring, bar none. They might set up the golf course a little bit easier. There's a number of different ways that they can adjust tee boxes. We've seen par 5s play shorter or longer, depending on the days, going back through some individual rounds from last year. So I think that there's a number of ways that they could maybe make it a little bit easier than what we think on Saturday. But if they play that golf course straight up, Saturday is going to be very difficult. I don't care, if it's going to even be lift clean in place there. If you get 20, 30 mile an hour winds and you start making one or two bad swings out there, big numbers are looking on especially that back nine.
No doubt about it. Again, I think we just need to kind of wait and see. We've seen this course a lot. I'm going to look at course history, but you're going to see some wonky things because, again, there's water, there's variance. 2020 got canceled when Decky was dominating. I'm going to be mentioning that throughout the show. Yeah. I also want to say, we're always updating here on the graphics. I saw, I'm staring at the YouTube flash across the top. We got a couple subscribers here. You guys got your recognition. We've got Connor Shea has subscribed. Charles Robinson has subscribed. So welcome to Team Awesemo. Good to see it. I don't know, Connor Shea, if you're related to my college roommate, John Shea. If you are, good people. But if not, welcome aboard nonetheless.
Incredible.
Anyway, let's dive in. We've got a lot of players to get to. The top tier, Rahm, he's not playing great, but he's still the top price guy. He's amongst the favorites in the betting market. I've seen him around 12 to 1. He's 11,100. You got Rory, you got Morikawa, you got JT, who's the champ, and Hovland. I mean, again, you have a multitude of options. What do you do when you have a board this stacked?
It's a major. I mean, we're looking at a major board on a major golf course, and you have to kind of apply it, what we know from the past. And for me, my eyes gravitate towards Rory McIlroy right off the bat. I mean, Thursday, when you had a normal Bay Hill, he goes out, shoots 7 under. You're feeling really good until the weekend. There's no going to be opportunity for them to try out this golf course or go against some of the things that Rory does really, really well. High apex golfer, a guy who's just going to be able to do what he wants to do, can get really hot. Obviously, the best driver of the golf ball of the last 10 years, and has the opportunity here where if he's able to just kind of flag hunt and take dead aim and know that the ball is going to be landing and not bouncing 30, 40 feet after the fact, he's going to be really set up to play well here. Obviously, he was the winner the first year that they moved this here in 2019 back to March. That sets up nicely. You get overseed. So in terms of putting, and this is something that I know a lot of people are going to talk about this week, but I just want to put it on everybody's radar. Overseeding is basically when they take Bermuda greens and they put another type of grass over top of it in order to protect Bermuda over the course of the winter, keep it from really losing that grass. And you get really smooth, perfect putting surfaces. Now it's going to be wet and soppy. And so, yeah, you're going to have a lot of footprints. You're going to have a lot of other extra factors that are really difficult to really factor in. But what it looks like over the 2 years of them playing here is that even bad putters are putting pretty darn well here. I think that makes JT and Rory guys that I'm just kind of highlighting right off the bat at the top end.
Yeah. So again, I think that, with all the options you have up top, there's really no, you could start anywhere. I'm drawn to JT as well, though. We haven't seen him during the Florida swing. He's very good, though. 2 straight top 10s, waste management and Genesis. He won here last year. Game is fine. Can handle all different types of conditions. Can go if it's a wedge fest or something. I trust him as good as anyone. You could say that about Morikawa as well. And I don't mind that. I do worry, of course, about his putter, just like I worry about JT's. I want to ask you specifically about Rahm, though. It's starting to become, I think the 10-inch putt has magnified it a little more, but regardless, he has lost strokes putting, 2 or more strokes putting in 3 straight events. Where does that leave him for you?
It's difficult because Jon Rahm is the best player on planet Earth if the putter is neutral, and it's not neutral right now. He's having some major problems, and I just need to take that 10-inch putt out of play, and you just need to kind of look at the full sample size. There's something going on there around the green and putting. It's been kind of twofold here of late. He's lost 3 straight weeks here in putting, but he's lost 5 straight tournaments around the green, and he still put up a top 21 performance or better, which tells you how elite the ball striking is. Now, if you get wet grounds, if you can get the opportunity for that to be a little bit more neutral and flat, he for sure vaults up to the top here, but it has been really, really bad. And you see this, whether it's Bernard Longer from forever ago, whether it's Adam Scott from, our generation, me growing up, guys, Aaron Wise now having to make major shifts because putters, when it starts to go away in your hands and you're a top player, there's an expectation that, it's going to come back. It might be something where he needs to do something drastic sooner rather than later. Now it's 3 weeks. We don't want to completely go nuts, but he's got to shift something. If you're losing 4 strokes putting in a golf tournament and you still finish 17th, that's going to weigh on you quite a bit more, even than if it's like, oh, well, I'm just grinding out to make cuts. Jon Rahm has an expectation of being the best player in the world. So we just got to keep monitoring it. But a top 20 is not going to be good enough out of your 11-1 golfer here this week. Yeah, I'm alarmed by it, but I don't really know what to do other than try to take shots, considering the ownership's going to be the lowest on him out of anybody else outside of, I guess, Rory, and I'm already there on Rory.
Yeah, I'm not deterred by it. I mean, he doesn't play as much in Florida. He doesn't seem to be at the height of his powers, but you're also getting some leverage up top. Not that he's going to be sneaky. I mean, it's Jon Rahm. Let's be serious, but I'm not overly alarmed by it. He's had his chances. He at one point I thought gave it away here and whatnot. But I still feel confident that Rahm can get it done. I'm comfortable with it. You could still double pair north of 10 if you want. JT, Rahm, I'm fine on Rory. Once again, I find myself underweight on Hovland, and it's just, I don't know if I'm just not used to seeing him up here, and he could have easily won last week and the around the green game is fine, but if it's really brutal conditions, where does that leave Hovland for you?
I don't know what to do with him. I mean, obviously last week it would have been nice to have some. That was the one guy I was okay with him, but it was just, he kind of becomes the forgotten guy in a lot of spots for me because the missed cut equity, you look at Phoenix, it just misses it out there. It comes back fourth and second here, back to back. Gained strokes around the green last week, which is shocking considering I believe going into the back nine, he was 3 for 9 in terms of sand saves. I mean, that is still something that he's got to shore up in his golf game, but everything else is elite. Just gaining tons and tons on the approach. The greens are a lot smaller here, 5,500 feet. He's been gaining in 3 straight with the putter, which is something nice to see as well. Just an underrated putter here of late, coming off of a brutal end of the season, summer into the fall last year. So I think there's definitely some reason for optimism there in terms of like what his golf game looks like going forward here. But God, at 10-1, when I can get to JT, when I can go down to Hideki, when I can go all the way up to Rory at 10-8, he just kind of ends up being a guy that it's like, I can't play everybody. Would I like to get to more guys and play 2 or 3 in this top end? Sure. But that's just we have to take salary into account. So he just becomes lost again this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. And honestly, related to that, we had a good question from Chad, friend of the show as well, Brendan. So care to comment on how you guys will be handling ownership this week with the uncertain variability of the weather? Will you be coming under the field on high owned plays with that in mind? I don't think solely because of the weather. And I get what you're saying with the increased variance, but just generally this tournament is high variance. It's a hard cut to make. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of water. So I think in general, game theory on guys in small field, single entry, where they're pushing 30+%, you got to take a hard look. You don't rule them out just on that. But if you're close, I would make the pivot more often than not at TBC Sawgrass versus API, where a large percentage of people make the cut.
Yeah, and it's also going to depend on field size. It's going to depend on what format you're looking at, because I can like JT a lot. Like there's no doubt about it. The pedigree is there. He tends to putt around this track a lot better. He's 6 for 6 in his 6 starts that he's played here since 2015 with a win, third, a near top 10, 11th there. There's a number of paths that JT has where I think he's the most, as weird as it sounds, just in current form with the course history, where he's just a phenomenal play up top here. But I also expect him to be pretty darn popular. He's 21.6% here. So you got to really take into account things like this as we get closer to lock on Thursday, because if he ends up around 30% in things, I mean, there might be an approach I take where in 3 max, maybe I play a little bit more of him where I know he's already going to be chalky and kind of fired up there. And I take an underweight approach in large field stuff because, one bad swing on 17, one bad swing on 18, which I think is just the far more difficult hole between the two, a little bit underrated difficult just in terms of the public. I think that you could be looking at JT having a missed cut for the first time. That's just kind of how this golf course works.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see big names miss the cut. That is just how it works. Yep. I'm not going to be deterred by that. You got to play the cards you've been dealt. Last question before we move to the nines. Is it a priority for you to have one of these 5 guys in your lineup?
No.
Okay.
I think that there's builds where you could go Cantley, Hideki, Scheffler has proven, Bermuda grass, I'm pretty good. I think that we're looking at a number of players. I mean, this is a major. What I like to get to 10K, I'm probably going to have most of mine that start with some form of JT or Rory. That's just kind of how my builds are going to look. That's kind of how they've always looked, because I just think they're 2 of the best 5 golfers on planet Earth. And it's this kind of a field where I think that they're both extremely live to win this golf tournament. But would you be wrong to go to taking shots on Cantley, Hideki, and going to Scheffler and starting with 2 or 3 of those guys? I don't think that that's crazy at all. I mean, this is the best field you're running into all year long.
Well, let's talk about that before we move to that mid-range, because you have super players here. Cantley's been out of his mind. DJ's broken, but he's going to be a leverage play. Xander, Decky, Bryson withdrew, Cam Smith, Scheffler, who's playing better than maybe anyone, in Spieth. 2 or 3 of these guys could be in the same lineup. I'm going to throw it out there right now. I liked him last week. He did nothing. He ended up coming in 20th because he shot 2 under on Sunday early and he jumped up the board. Hideki's 31-1 though out there. And to me, that's just too big of a number. I like this. 2 years ago, he absolutely dusted the field in his 1 round and then they canceled the tournament. Hideki's got everything that I want in a golfer to handle this. I wouldn't push back on Cantlay. I wouldn't push back on Scheffler the way he's playing, but where are you drawn in the nines?
I got to go back to some Scotty Scheffler again. I mean, this guy is a stud.
He's quite good.
He's quite good at golf. And again, this field is drastically better top to bottom than what we saw last week. But what we saw last week was a guy who can close out golf tournaments, who can do it in a number of different ways. It was fun to watch that entire round play out. And, he's making par saves where he drives it in trouble. The putter has just been so good on these Bermuda surfaces. Phoenix Open, 6.4 strokes gained putting, and it's going to play a little bit more slicked up. It's not going to be nearly as much of a true Bermuda surface. It's going to play a little bit bentish at this track, so it's a little bit different just with some of the overseeding. But Arnold Palmer, 4.3 strokes gained putting. And then the Genesis, I mean, that's going to be that's your Poana that we have out here mixed with a little Kikuya and such. Genesis, 2.5 strokes gained putting. I mean, he's just playing too damn good to ignore. Now, if ownership weren't a thing, maybe I just have a crazy amount of him, but ownership's a thing. He's going to be popular. Him and JT are really popping in our ownership projections here early on. And I truly think what happens when these guys are around 22% on Tuesday, they end up around 28-30% come Wednesday. So I would not be surprised to see some really extreme chalk that exists on those two spots. So I am looking to get to a little bit more Hideki than I normally would on a given week. As you said, he was the first round leader, or whatever you want to call it, during the round leader on Thursday there before they ended up canceling the tournament. That's a bummer for you because I'm sure you had some Hideki money that was sitting there nice and live. We got to be looking at him as a guy to really be isolating. What was that?
Yeah, that's true. Confirmed.
It's brutal.
What about Cantlay though? Talk to me, because he's sitting there. He has not played during the Florida swing. He's missed the cut 2 straight years here. I don't think that that's indicative of much. Just where are you at? Because again, these are the decisions we have to make. You cannot play every world-class golfer, and we have Cantlay pushing 20% already on a Tuesday.
Yeah, Cantley's very good at golf. I mean, second in DK scoring amongst this entire field over the course of the last 50 rounds, 100 rounds, any sample size, coming off of an incredible 2021 finish. They got him player of the year, came back 4th at Pebble, 9th at Amex, right off the bat, top 5 at Century, tournament champions. Then I should just ask you, you're the Cantlay whisperer. I was just like, well, I don't know how we don't play a little bit of Cantlay, considering he was the most expensive guy and a reduced, besides Rahm, but he was just reduced ownership for a guy who had finished on the heels of 4 straight top 10s. And you were just like, fade. I'm off of him completely at Genesis. The irons have had these weird weeks where he loses 2.3. So if there was anything I was looking at to get off of playing some Cantlay, it would just be that this is a golf course that, generally speaking, you kind of want to be hitting it close to the hole because you get some of these double tiered greens, you get very small surfaces. So if you're on with your irons, you can really gain amongst this entire field. And, he's never really gained crazy amount with the irons outside of Memorial, where he basically got the luck box win with John Rahm getting knocked out with COVID there. But he hasn't gained over 4 strokes gained approach, which I know sounds like an extreme number, but that's the kind of stuff you got to do. And it seems like the winner does in some of these spots. So in terms of win equity, maybe it's not the highest because the iron play hasn't been elite amongst the elite players, but he does everything else extremely well. So I think he's somebody that I'm just going to have to play a little bit more of the ownership game if it comes down a little bit, just because I think people are really going to gravitate towards a 9,200 Scotty Scheffler with that current form, and I think rightfully so. We'll see what happens. I would expect out of these top groupings that Cantlay might become the guy who comes a little bit under-owned compared to what we think right now.
I just don't know how I'm going to get over on him, just given my lineup construction. I want to get over on JT. I like Rahm and Rory if I could get, to some of them. I like Decky. Xander, I mean, he's always popular somehow, even though he's kind of off the radar. I think I want to go there. Let me just ask you about DJ, though, before we move down. He's clearly playing the worst of any of these players. He's clearly the highest miscut risk of the range. But it is Dustin Johnson. Do you just say, you know what? I'm going to zig where everyone else zags. We have him projected for 5% ownership. Do you buy on that just given what we know right now?
I'm not going to. Okay. I probably won't. I'd be surprised if I got to much of anything of him. It hasn't just been bad for a guy of his pedigree. It's been apocalyptically bad. And the Genesis is a spot you would expect him to play really well. 73-71 missed cut. The Farmers, nothing enticing. Coming off of the tail end of last year, there just really hasn't been a spike of form since 2020. He won the Masters, and it feels like it's just been coasting since then. I don't know if he's really that motivated or what's going on, because it just seems like he's just kind of loose in a way where a top tier player of his pedigree just shouldn't be. He shouldn't be a guy that's giving away strokes the way that he is week in, week out. He traditionally has been one of the best drivers of the golf ball on planet Earth. And even that is starting to be mitigated a little bit amongst this top grouping. I just feel like you're giving up a lot by trying to make him a thing this week. He's played well, some of these tournaments where you're not hitting a ton of drivers. RBC Heritage, you wouldn't expect him to be the best there, but has done okay there in the past. I'm not really sure what to do with him outside of just not play him. So unless you have a different take, just because if you play the ownership game, I feel like we've had this conversation about Koepka quite a bit of late too.
Yeah, I think that this is where contest selection is really important. I think he's a very interesting Millie play if you're playing in something like that, just because 5% guy that he's still, amongst the, you want to take the odds on the win equity. He's still up there quite a bit. I know it's not normal DJ, but we got him at 36-1. He's still a guy that can do it. In my mind, I think just the risk is much higher if you're honing in on him in single entry and 3 max, things like that. I think it's a little much, but you want to put 8, 12, 14% in your 1 million to first $25 lotto tickets. I think that's more than acceptable. Just blindly, guy's done it for decades. I think he could be just fine.
That's gross. Don't talk me into DJ.
Well, can I talk you into Brooks? I bet Brooks. I don't normally do that. I couldn't pass on that number. Mm-hmm. He was in the mid 40s. I think that's just ridiculous. Some of those numbers are long gone now, but he was up there at one point. I like him in this 8K range. You've got Louis, you've got Berger, who's going to be popular. Will Z is there. Talk to me about this next tier.
Yeah, last year, I think we all bet JT because the number was wrong. I think we're all going to be betting Brooks Koepka. It's weird. I've bet Brooks the last couple times, and I think this is an all right spot to be taking some shots. You talk about the pedigree. At least we've seen some bits of form here from Brooks Koepka, and I've played more of him than I ever expected, and bet more of him than I ever expected the last couple of weeks. Obviously when he's been in the field, but I think that this is just a spot where if I'm going to blindly go into a place where it's 20 million, knowing that Brooks Koepka has this mindset where he just only gears up for the top tournaments, this is amongst those. And I think that he might go a little bit overlooked as a result of that. And it seems like he is. So 12%, I guess he's a little bit higher than Louis and way higher than Finau in terms of ownership, but 12% in the mid 8s. That's just a spot I'm going to be landing quite a bit, I think.
Third at Waste Management, miscut at Genesis, 16th at Honda. He's got Bermuda splits. He's a Seminole. He just knows what he's doing. Obviously, I don't need to talk about Brooks. Can he win a big event? We know that that's where he excels. So I have no problem with it. I think Finau to me is he's like DJ. He's doing nothing that stands out. I don't see a lot of reason to go there outside of game theory. What about Berger, though? He melted at PGA National. No shame in doing that. He still played very well. He's going to be popular, but do you think that that's warranted?
Yeah, it probably is warranted. And I didn't know what we were going to get with him, but obviously I saw the pricing come out, and he was one of the guys that just stood out sub 9K. We understand what he can do in Florida. He goes in this entire bucket of bad putters. I mean, well, let's just play the Hideki, Rory, JT, and Daniel Berger and rotate them around in a number of lineups, and we're kind of set to go. Gained 2.3 strokes game putting at the Honda, 2.8 at the Farmers. Did a little bit of everything well at the Farmers, and yet didn't really kind of find himself at the top of that leaderboard, surprisingly enough. I think he is just an easy guy to click on this week. Sub 20% is better than 25%, which you'd be looking at for this number if he had won at the Honda. So I think you're getting a little bit of an ownership decrease. Plus, I trust Alex Baker and Steve Buzzard quite a bit. And it seems like two guys, if you guys want to check out the PGA Pro plays week in, week out, this is definitely a week you're going to want to see where those two guys are landing on some plays. They're two of the best in the entire world. And so I'm going to be kind of trusting what I see, what they see in Daniel Berger more so than what I see, because what I see is always a guy that can get really hot with the irons, just kind of does it a little bit differently, has that idiosyncrasy in his golf swing that maybe gets golf purists off of it. I'm just looking at Daniel Berger. I don't know how you don't play a little bit this week.
Yeah, the tools like him. And again, as you mentioned, just fantastic tools that we have. Even if you want to sign up for the week, awesemo.com/join. We'd love to have you in the community. If you're not ready to do that, or you say another time, fair enough. You want to support us anyway, hit the like button. Easiest way to do it. And also, if you're liking what you're seeing, you want to join, you want to be part of this 74,000 person community, just press subscribe and you are in. We just had a couple hockey cardsaholic and Jason Peters joining up. Love to see it. We'll add some more during this show. Talking about the lower eights, Neiman, Sunjay, Scott, Billy Ho, who was just playing out of his mind. Shane Lowry was right there at PGA National. I definitely like Lowry. I mean, he is the wind, rain god. We know that. Horschel, I mean, what do you say there?
So, I mean, amongst the top guys, I feel pretty confident that amongst Rahm, Rory, JT, we can get somebody who really spikes. I think the tournament is really won and lost in terms of DFS and what you do in the low eights, upper nines, because there are some really, really exciting spots to kind of find yourself landing. And Billy Ho, I don't know what to say. Apparently, he's just going to gain strokes putting to a crazy extent every single week. And now the irons have been crazy hot the last two at the Honda, 5.8, 4.9 at the Arnold Palmer. There is just too good a form here to just say, I'm going to completely write him off. He does kind of the perfect combination of what I think you kind of need a little bit more of, and that's iron play and putting around this track. So he checks a lot of boxes. He's 8100, and is he going to be popular once again? Yes. He will fit into some of these Berger builds that I'll put together, and I'll have to find some really strong pivots in like 3 max stuff and 20 max stuff. 150, I think, obviously I'm always worried about having too much ownership in my given lineups there. I don't want to be getting 4 or 5 of these super popular guys together. So maybe I'll avoid more of the Berger and Horschel combos in that kind of a spot. But as it stands right now, we all know that I'm going to play a ton of Sam Burns. That was never in doubt. So I'm probably going to land on him a little bit more than Billy Ho, but 20% Billy Ho. It's weird to say that that's appropriate, but it's Florida. It's a great spot for him. He's got the irons and the putter working. It's impossible to say he's not a good play this week.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's you're balancing that in, is he overpriced and overowned, for that form. He's really struggled at the Players, and he's always putted well here. He just really never got on track. I don't think that that's overly indicative, because you could say the same thing about API before last week. So I get it. I definitely prefer Shane Lowry. I also prefer Adam Scott. It's not to say that Billy was a bad play. I think you can double up, even triple up in the low eights if you want to go very balanced. Have like 1 9K guy, 3 or 4 8K guys, and land in the 7K range and call it a day. But I don't see a ton that jumped off the page either way. I'm much more interested in the sevens. And let's go there. You mentioned Sam Burns. You've got Ty Hatton, Fitzy, Webb is back, Jason Day is back, Homa, Leishman, Fleetwood. I mean, I think the winner could come from this range if it's not one of the elites. I'm very interested in a lot of these guys. Are you interested in this upper sevens?
Yeah, holy God. It's just stacked. Let's start with my boy Sam Burns. Is the golf tournament played on Bermuda grass? Yes, it is. I will play some Sam Burns. That's just a foregone conclusion. Tyrrell Hatton, shot 69, had the best round maybe of anybody all week last week. There's definitely a putter and an iron combination that is waiting in the wings with him any given spot. Does everything well, which is just definitely a plus going around this track. Matthew Fitzpatrick, just been playing really, really well. I feel like he's crazy underpriced for this spot. So at 7,700, he's another guy that I think is just obvious. He's just like an obvious click for cash. Yes. I think that's like the most obvious click of cash out of anybody this entire week. So you want to do that. And then Webb is coming in really, really low owned. And he's probably the most fascinating guy to really be talking about. I know Answer isn't exactly your boy, but Webb Simpson and him, kind of looking at them together, you're getting a huge ownership decrease going to these guys as opposed to clicking on Fitzy or Hatton. So it becomes pretty apparent to me that Webb Simpson needs to be a part of your builds. I think he'll be a priority for me in large field stuff just because of that ability to spike any given week. I think he's an underrated putter long term as well, just because he does it a little bit differently. But seventh around the green, the irons kind of click. If he can be competent off the tee, which I think he really can be, considering you don't have to hit as many drivers around this track, he plays well in these kind of spots. RBC Heritage, it sticks out so strongly to me that at 8%, he's like an auto 3x the field play.
If Webb Simpson has a big week, I'm going to be in probably trouble. I'm going to have flat 0. I have no interest in him. I think there's a very real chance that Webb is hurt or he's just not ready to play. He's played Sony. That is it this year. He plays Waste Management every single year. He loves that course. He was not in that field. I don't know why, but it is a little concerning that the only time we saw him was during Hawaii Swing. And that is it. And he was terrible at Sony. He lost 4.5 strokes tee to green. Maybe the game is covered. He blew the field away at the Players not that long ago. We know this is a good track for him. If it's Webb Simpson of old, it is an absolute steal, sub 10%. If it's Webb Simpson and he's limping in, Fitzy, Answer, Day, Homa, Leishman, I'd prefer all of them. I'm going to bank on that. I will not have Webb Simpson in the portfolio.
Holy shit. Okay. Well, welcome to the show, everybody.
He's only played once this
I know. He has a neck problem, and we all know that there's something going on with it.
Good.
I know. I'm just saying that's what it was in 2021. My neck hurts too. But you know what else? I don't have millions and millions of dollars to take care of it. Yeah, I think if you're Webb Simpson, easy. If you're Webb Simpson, think about it this way. What are the golf tournaments that matter the most in the terms of the year? Sure, he loves Waste Management, but if you're not 100%, don't you gear up for the Players, for the Masters, for majors going forward, especially somebody who's set for life, who has a bunch of kids, who maybe wants to be home a little bit more, and you just set up your schedule for 1 year to just be 100% for these situations? Because I think Webb Simpson, just in the same way that you could say, yeah, well, he withdrew out of a place that he loves and he plays well at. Well, yeah. But does he need the extra $1.5 million from winning that golf tournament? No, I'd rather him just be healthy.
Well, I agree with that. I guess for me, and again, I'm not a golfer. What do I know? If I was gearing up for a tournament, I would want to get a rep or two in and miss a cut the week before, and say, okay, I got out there. Coming in off a 2-month layoff, maybe that works for him. I have no idea. I've seen time and time again with Brooks and some of these guys, they go in a tournament they probably don't care about to gear up for the tournament that they do care about. So
see, Ben Fleisner knows I will waste one lineup on Webb purely out of FOMO. I will absolutely waste some lineups on him because the fear of knowing that if he's 100% and I didn't click on him sub 8K in this field, I would feel really, really, I wouldn't be able to be on the show the next week. I couldn't do it. Yeah, I wouldn't be strong enough.
Does my back hurt? Not really. I sit in literally, I have the nut chair, the goat chair of all chairs.
This is what you need in your life.
Life changer.
This Omega
chair is actually amazing.
This Secret Lab chair is fantastic and it has been awesome. But this Omega thing, you put this for lumbar support.
Lumbar support.
Yes.
All right. What about, you mentioned Fitzy. I don't think this is crazy. You mentioned like easiest cash play. Paul Casey also at 74 has to kind of fit that. I mean, I think he's going to be crazy popular when the ownership continues to update. Sergio is there. Reed is there. I'm not going there. What about the lower sevens?
You think Paul Casey's going to be crazy popular?
Why would he? And Chad, feel free to chime in. I love your opinion. I just look at it. Okay, he's making cuts. He knows what he's doing. He's a pure iron player. The price is really appealing. I believe he got a slight price down. I mean,
yeah, I love him, but I'm nothing. I love him. I loved him last week, and I'm standing strong next to him after an 83 that I watched way too much of on PGA Tour Live. So I am standing by my man. He sticks out as another guy to fire up this week. He's sub 10% right now. So you can't play everybody. But you don't believe it?
I don't, but maybe the Sunday was so bad that it's deterred people. I just don't think it's a great range. Sergio, who wants to play him? You've got Woodland, who
Sergio has like one of the best course histories. He's going to get clicked.
I've been playing Sergio. Okay. Who else do you think is in this range that you might want to go? Do you go to Connors? You go to Poulter? You go to those guys?
No, you said my favorite guy, which is why I'm just surprised that you think he's going to be popular because it just the ownership reflects it differently. So if If we'll see again tomorrow, we'll tell a lot more tales than Tuesday morning out here on the West Coast. So we'll have a little bit more concrete idea of where people are going to land. You consume more content and you kind of get an idea. You've done this long enough. I've done this long enough. We kind of know where people are going to gravitate. And I think the best players are going to gravitate towards Paul Casey, but there's a lot more public money this week as well. And there's a lot of people who love to click on Sergio Garcia out of that contingent. And he's got great course history. I will not play Sergio Garcia. Gary Woodland coming off of back-to-back very live to win kind of weeks. I know our friend Adam Scher would be a lot happier if he had somehow pulled those out, because I know he was massively overweight to Woodland in both weeks. Would be a lot happier here if he had pulled those off. But back-to-back fifths here in Florida. Another guy that kind of fits that mold of like a guy who can play in all of those types of conditions. Pebble Beach, not exactly a driver golf course in those U.S. Open conditions that he won on. So it was he seems like a decent enough click, but I think there's enough other landmines that might get people off of Paul Casey at 7,400. So I'm with you. He's by far my favorite to go to. Another terrible putter. Let's just put them in a bucket and just try to win a lot of GPPs with them. Put Sergio there too, I suppose. But everybody else, it seems is going to pull enough ownership away from him. I think we'll be okay.
What are you doing with Cameron Young? So he's probably, to me, one of the more interesting. The guy's playing out of his mind. Follows up the runner-up at Genesis with a 16th at Honda. Follows that up with a 13th at API. He's gained over 4 strokes off the tee in 4 straight weeks. He's also gained strokes putting in all 4 weeks. Maybe he's got the champ combo off the tee and putting around the green, and our irons don't look great. Never played here, inexperienced. What do you do with the guy? Do you cash in your chips and say, you know what, it's been a good run, or do you keep pushing it?
Oh, best of luck figuring out whether you want to click on him or Taylor Gooch. I pick Cameron Young. I think just about. I don't want to say every time. Gooch is automatic cash play. So play Taylor Gooch in cash and move on with your week. Don't try to make Cameron Young the thing here. But Cameron Young is showing out. Like, he's a very, very good player, and I'm more inclined to think that you'll see pretty close ownership to him and Gooch, but. We're seeing a guy really starting to emerge. He is what I hoped Steven Yeager would have been. Is probably the right way of putting it. He's in
this field somehow.
Why is he? Is he friends?
He took Ricky's spot, I guess. I don't know. Tough scene.
That's a very tough scene for you. It's way worse for me because I've actually touted a guy named Steven Yeager out of the abyss, but whatever. Taylor Gooch, you play him in cash, but Cameron Young just sets up well. Putter, the irons aren't as good, so it's not going to be like a slam dunk play he might have been here on some of these more driver laden golf courses. You had to drive it well at the Genesis, Honda, even at the Arnold Palmer. I mean, he gained 4-point strokes gain off the tee, so like his absolute super strength is being able to bomb it and then also hitting a lot of 2 irons in some of these spots where you're just like, wow, he can absolutely stripe it there. But that definitely breeds pretty easy opportunities. He'll probably have more irons from the short grass, maybe takes advantage of lift, clean in place a little bit more if we want to be stringing to that narrative. And plus 4-point strokes gained approach. When he is going to be on with irons, you're going to see him finish top 5, top 10. So there's some massive upside from him, sub 10%.
Yeah, I don't know what to think, to be honest. I've played this guy a little more than I would have imagined because I usually wait and see. They're just throwing new variables at him. I think the big catalyst for me, though, if he was really popular, I'd make a stand, but I don't really need to make a crazy stand. Like if he's 8%, why would I do something crazy? I might just play like 10% and move on. Taylor Gooch to me is a little, he's going to be more popular. There's no doubt. I don't know. I mean, obviously he's got the iron combo, putting, playing good. He's destroyed this on the approach in past years. There's nothing that really screams red flag. But going back to the original questions of these shows, like will you just kind of pivot? In some lineups, I will, just because he's going to be popular, and hope that the weather is so outrageous that he just gets unlucky in some regard. Because you have other guys there. You have super aggressive pivots like Kevin Kisner. No one's going to do that. He's got a perfect track for this. He's just playing like garbage. Russell Knox is there. EVR is there. From the clouds, like these are Millie type pivots, super high miscut equity. Do you see any like Thigala list? Are these guys piquing your interest?
List, not so much. We can see him. I mean, he's top 15 in terms of last 50 rounds amongst this field strokes gain approach. That can be useful just to have a pure ball striker out there doing his thing. The putter, I just never feel like he's going to make enough putts on some of these easier. It's so hard because like he comes off of a win at the Farmers, and now we've gone 53 miscut. He knows his life is kind of set up here, and the putter has just disappeared in such a meaningful way. Can he make enough putts to really hang here? I'm going to say no as it stands right now. It gets crazy windy there on Saturday, and maybe you need to have some of these guys, but you're going to miss greens, and you're going to have to be proficient putting. Needs to kind of have a little bit of all-around game going right now, and he has not shown that the last 3 weeks coming off of the W, where nice to be on him for that one, but we will be going elsewhere, I think, this week.
Yeah, I'm with you again. I think you can make some blind stands for EVR, who I tried that last week, did not work, for Kisner, things like that. I don't know how you single in on some of these guys. If we'll break down the numbers, we'll look at tee time stacks. A lot of that will be for tomorrow's show, but for me, we're starting to get into the flyers, and again, it's a perfect time to transition to the real cheapies, the 6K range. I don't know if you're going to need to go down here, but certainly if you want Rahm and you want JT, and if you're on Yahoo and you're looking for guys at the min, these are going to be some of the names you have to consider. Brian Harmon is there. Mackenzie Hughes is there. Griot, Bubba's down here. I don't know about that. Where do you see yourself potentially going for your last man in?
I'm kind of torn between whether I want to be more on Keegan Bradley or Patton Kizzire. I mean, Keegan Bradley, if we're going to get any kind of a flat putting week from him, which you just never know anymore. He gained 3.7 strokes gained last week at the Arnold Palmer backdoor top 12, finished 11th there. Just what in the world? Because he lost strokes gain approach, and that is just not something that he ever does. So if he's confident with the putter here coming off of last week, if he actually feels good with that club, you're going to see him be a guy who gains a lot of strokes gained approach over the next however many tournaments. I mean, I believe he only lost 2 times all of last season in terms of strokes gained approach. So the irons are the hot part of his golf game, and generally what we're relying on, really good ball striker. I just see one good putting week, and that can be the difference for some of these guys. So at 6,900, I can talk myself into, I think, a little bit more of him. As I said, Patton Kizzire is another guy that, we fired up last week there, 32nd at Arnold Palmer. Nothing super inspiring, but was doing everything a little bit well outside of off the tee, lost a little bit. But the irons, the putter, that's generally what you're going to be thinking of him as a Sea Island guy out of Georgia. I feel like on this grass, on this surface, pretty close to home, Patton Kizzire might be another guy to fire up.
Yeah, again, I think this is where you start to get into skill set stacks. I might use, if I was using Webb, which I am not, Patton Kizzire would probably be on that type of team. Yeah. And I totally get that. I do want to bring up real quick, this is why our chat, good job. What awesome. About Noren? That's an oversight. I love Noren this week, flat 7. Him and Chris Kirk are sitting there at flat 7. I think they make very reasonable plays. If you are in a jam or you just want to go to best available, to me, they are the best available in that range. Can I interest you in a blind flyer on Matthew Wolff? He's starting to get down there now. Now he's in the 6s at least. Or do you say, you know what, once again, no?
It's just painful, right? This just hurts.
I mean, he made the cut.
He made the cut. That's great. You know what else he did? He lost in everything except for the putter. I'm not going to play him. I can't. Okay. We tried at the Amex, and we knew immediately the wrong of our ways. Like
what
it
about
was
Kuchar?
Oh, Jesus.
That might be like a
I don't know how you pulled Kuchar out of the rabbit's hat in Sony, but you did it. So you tell me why you're going to play Kuchar this week.
Well, let me see what he did at Sony, because I don't even remember that.
Yeah, you literally said, I think he's going to to play well, and he played well. It was stupid.
I think I said that at Pebble, too. He did not play well.
He did not play well.
But that's all right, 50%.
It's good.
Win some, you lose some. I mean, when I think of Kuchar's game now, I don't know where that ceiling is, but I think it's pretty clear he'd be more apt to thrive in a technical second shot, grind it out type thing. You know, the RBC heritages of the world.
Yeah, the match play last year. Yeah.
Like
windy and gross.
It's just, and even at the Players. I mean, yes, he won the Players. It was a decade ago. So I don't know how much that matters, but at the same time, I think the course itself would be good for his skill set. Now, it's a real question of where is his skill set permanently. at this point? I don't know, but we need to find something down here. Now, you couldn't roll those shares to Aaron Wise, and that would be fine with me. 17th at API, lost 4.5 strokes putting, surgical, plus 10.6 tee to green. That stands out. I mean, at 6.6, he is in play for me. I'm going to have Wise shares, as I always do.
Shout out to our boy Jason Rosalind, who puts out the PGA Fantasy Golf Preview every single week. I guess my job today is just to talk about the tools and about all the other guys. We can have a talk about that later. But Aaron Wise, one of the only guys who's gained positive strokes gained in every category this season. He's the only one that's under $7,000 who's done it. So I think Aaron Wise, 6,600, a very astute, a sharp click by you, even though I already knew you were already going to play him no matter what. You
want another one? I'm gonna double stake my claim here.
Shit, this is gonna. I did Henrik Orlando. Oh, what?
Yeah,
just get hot one time, dealer.
I don't understand why. I don't know. Like if Sebastian Munoz was like mega chalk, I wouldn't think anything of it, but he's not by any stretch. And I look at it. Why are people deterred? He's 4 straight tournaments inside the top 40, 3 straight tournaments in the finishing in the 20s. He's gained tee to green in all 4. He's lost strokes putting in all 4. So if we get anything with the putter, it's a bonus at this point. He likes Bermuda. It's his preferred surface. So there's a much better chance to flip. I don't know. I mean, he played the Players once. It didn't go well. Who cares?
I don't hate it.
Yeah, 67. I think that's more than reasonable. I'm not saying run and jam Munoz, but if you're in a jam, if you need a player down there, Wise, Dahmen, people brought up, I get that. Munoz, Bo Hostler.
That's the guy. Yeah.
I've been playing him.
Feels like hitting on 19. It feels like we're hitting on 19 right now, but you know what? We already won.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Oh, it sounds bad. I'm saying that you already won. So, or most of the time you're winning with Bo.
Yeah. You have 7.
20 beats your 5. I'm sorry, sir. I definitely like Bo Hostler again this week. Back-to-back top 20s. I told you, it's pretty good. These Southern California kids, I get to see them up close, and they usually make me look very stupid. And he was one of them, one of the OGs of that, where I'm just like, man, this guy's really good around the greens. And you get these spiked approach weeks, and it's going to happen. He's been competent in that regard. Off the tee is always a question mark, but also I think if you had to pick one skill set that you're okay giving up a little bit, isn't it off the tee out here?
Yeah, so I think that you can. The thing I like about Sawgrass, you can be aggressive. You can use it as a weapon, but you definitely do not need to. So if you're not that type of player, you're not at a disadvantage. Besides the disadvantage that you will always be at, which is you're hitting it from further away. So I don't mind that. Clearly, if you're going to bleed somewhere, you should bleed off the tee. If you bleed with the approaches, you're out. If you bleed around the green, you need to get lucky. And if you bleed with the putter, you're capped upside wise, most likely. So I get it. A couple more names, then we're going to turn it over. Don't go anywhere. NHL strategy show coming up next. The content just keeps on rolling. Then we'll have NBA all day, as we always do, the entire crew. Thomas Peters is 6,300.
No.
Okay.
No.
Fine.
Why? I don't want to. The iron's just not good. He's not a good iron player. You talked about the approach, and then you want to play a guy who, let me find it. I know he's been bad. He's lost 3.3, 2.2, and 4.1 strokes gain approach in his last 3 American tournaments. Is that good?
Due.
Oh, he's due. Is that the way we look at it, man?
I mean, he's just such a prolific scorer. If you think that it's going to be streaks, bonuses, things like that, I think that helps him. If you think it's like we need to think our way around, he might run out of clubs. I mean, he's a dangerous man. Maybe showdown mentality. We're doing a lot of showdown content. Jason Rosalind, the whole team do a great job there. I could see it for showdown more than for the whole week, but you got flyers. We'll get into more of those tomorrow. Apparently Russell Wilson got traded to Denver. That's also that's apparent. I don't know what goes on. I'm on the show. KH Lee at 63. I think that's reason. Again, there are guys here. My last question for you before we duck on out of here, just gut feel with your lineup builds. Do you think it's going to be more stars and scrubs where you're going up to get 2 elites and you land in the lower 6s, or do you think more 8K range, very balanced, get 6 of 6 through and move on as much as you can?
Ownership dictates a lot of what I'm going to do with my process. And I like taking our projections. I like building out some stuff myself. And that usually takes me until the wee hours of Wednesday night. when I get everything kind of finished up, because no, apparently playing every DFS sport and betting college sports and everything else throughout a day takes a lot of time. So there's that. But as it stands right now, I did some lineup builds before the show, and it looks like I have about 0 of 150 that have more than one golfer from the 6K range. So I'm legitimately pretty much I'm saying there's only like one guy that I'll dip my toes in. It's so stacked in that upper 7K range. It's so stacked. This is a major field with some major ability up top, and you don't want to be bypassing them to play as much as I want to. A lot of GT Poston, who's actually played well here in the past. Last guy, shout out 6,100, but I don't want to be going nuts. Kevin Streelman might be like the one guy that I might get like 10% of from the 6K range. Last guy to really talk about, but I don't really see myself, Aaron Wise maybe as well, but I don't see myself really over investing in a lot of these guys, considering that means you're giving up in an upper 7s range, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Tyrrell Hatton, my boy Sam Burns, your boy Shane Lowry at 8K. We just have so many of these guys. Paul Casey, 7,400. It is too easy to fit them into lineups with 2 guys from 9K, or maybe one from there, one from the 10K range, that I'm not going to try to force too much stars and scrubs builds. And I know that maybe in a higher variance spot where you're going to see a lot of scoring, that you might see some of these worse players find a path to play some really good golf with easier conditions. But as it stands right now, I just don't think that that's going to be a viable way for me to go.
The very last thing we're going to do before we get out of here, a super chat from Sean. We saw it on the screen with our new icons, which is fantastic. Feels like Hatton should be good at this course and in his horrible course history. What are you doing with him? I am not deterred at all. He should be good at this course. Course fit is more important than course history. I'm going to play him as I see fit, and I do think he makes a lot of sense. So I'm not worried about his course history at all.
Yeah, let me look at the sample size we have in terms of rounds that he's actually played here as well, because like that can be a thing. You only get like a 12-round sample, and does 12 rounds make up whether you're a good or a bad golfer? Something like that? No. So he's definitely somebody that I think he's played here enough. And as you said, course fit, always going to be the priority for me too.
There you go. There you have it, folks. Again, stay tuned. Tomorrow night, more PGA content. If you have questions, at JazzRaz DFS, at Eric Lindquist. Coming up next, NHL strategy show and plenty of NBA content throughout the day. Good luck. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe, join. We want you as part of the community, and we will see you guys soon.